So there I was, laying in my bed. I had just woken up, scrolling through my phone, and I'm looking on Twitter. I'm looking and thinking about video ideas, and then I see this from NateTheHate, a tweet talking about him with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I about lose my ever-loving mind. Dude, I cannot tell you how much I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I love this game. I love this franchise. I know the second game has so many problems, but that's kind of what we're talking about today, on top of all of the other leaks that I think NateTheHate has gotten very much accurate. And here we finally get confirmation, especially for Xenoblade 2, that we're probably going to see something this year. Then we're going to talk about Ocarina of Time and some other predictions and leaks that he gave us in his podcast. So what did he say about Xenoblade Chronicles 2? That's the big story for me personally today, because I watched his podcast, right? And he said so much. And sometimes I think it can be a little bit hard for me with Nate to understand what he is saying as a prediction and what he is saying as like him leaking something from his own sources. I think that is very, very difficult to understand the difference between. Obviously, he will say like this is only a prediction if that is the case, but sometimes I think that line can get a little bit blurred just because of the nature of his job and the nature of what kind of a person he is. If you watch his podcast, he talks about a lot of different things, and then there are predictions and then there are leaks, and it's so confusing, like, oh, is this what you think is going to happen, or is this what's going to happen? So I went back and listened to that podcast one more time in preparation for this video, and yes, Star Fox was the same vein as Xenoblade was in that video, and as was Switch Sports, and as was all of these other things that he ended up saying would come to pass. And yes, Star Fox did come to pass, so we have no reason to believe that anything else he said is incorrect until we're proven otherwise. So what tweet did I see? Well, first it was from Stealth. Stealth is all over my timeline at all times. Stealth said, NateTheHate tweeted his personal expectations that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 will receive an enhanced edition this year. It's currently Monolith Soft's best-selling game on any platform, and that is such an interesting detail. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the most anticipated game that we could possibly get this year from that studio because it is the highest selling game. Why? There's a lot of reasons for that. I think one, it's because it came out in the launch year of the Switch. There was so much hype around that console, around the idea of playing really big open worlds, even just gargantuan experiences. That first year was like, let me get my Switch and let me get some big games. And people were willing to take much more of a risk on newer titles than they were in the past. But we'll get back to that in a second. So that link that Stealth had in his post then links over to a My Nintendo News account. So then they say fans have been waiting for a Nintendo Switch 2 update for the excellent Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for a while now. The Nintendo Switch game is fully playable on the Switch 2, but it could do with an upgrade to its resolution and frame rate in certain areas. Leaker NateTheHate has replied to a post asking whether he expects a Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade 2, and he says that he will expect it to be released later this year. Monolith Soft has not confirmed a Switch 2 edition. Then it goes to NateTheHate to responding to a post that I am not able to view. I don't know if this is something from my own account or if it's something that you guys can view. I'm assuming that this account, whoever it is, someone said at Nate, like, hey, what have you heard about Xenoblade 2? Can you give us an update? And he said, my personal expectation is this year. Then in the comments below that, more people ask, someone says, if it is happening, do you think it would be a definitive edition upgrade that adds a new epilogue and updates, or just a normal Switch 2 edition that improves the performance and resolutions? He said ideally it's a definitive edition and has meaningful improvements, but that's him very clearly saying ideally, not reporting anything. Then someone says, are you sure it's not a definitive edition? He said, I've said countless times Switch 2 edition or definitive edition. So this very well could be, just from what he's saying, either or. And just to really hammer that point home, hammer that nail into the ground on it could be a Switch 2 edition or it could be a definitive edition, someone else says, is there a reason that you think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch 2 edition is more likely over the 2, or do you think every mainline game will eventually get it, starting with 2? He says, I've never dismissed the possibility of the other 2 getting a Switch 2 edition. So that to me says that he doesn't really know. He's saying like, I have heard Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is coming, that it is going to be enhanced, but we don't know in what way, shape, or form. And if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you saw my video earlier in the year talking about the possibility of a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 definitive edition or a remake based on that leak from then. Earlier we saw that there was like a Spotlight account, which is a UK actor platform where you can go and basically put all of your stuff, like IMBD for here in America. And the actor that played Cosmos in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is not just some random character, Cosmos is a really big deal in Xenoblade. She was the voice actor for that, had a new listing that was basically saying that she had done some work for the series this year. So there is a very, very high possibility of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 coming this year. and I am almost willing to go out on a limb and say it is guaranteed. Now the thing is that he's not saying that it's coming this year. He's only saying that he knows it exists. So Xenoblade fans, we can just hold our breath and say it is here, it exists, but we just don't know when. Now this could remind some of you Kirby fans of his prediction of Planet Robobots. That is one of the only other NateTheHate predictions. It just wasn't right. I don't know if he's ever come out and said why that happened, or maybe there's something that like Nintendo was just holding on to it still, or maybe they moved it over to the Switch 2 for whatever reason, something with mouse controls, I don't know. Whatever the case, he got that wrong, and that is something very similar to the vein of this, where it's like, okay, it's going to get a remake or a definitive or a Switch 2, we don't know what it's going to get, but it's going to come. So there is like a sliver of a chance. I just want to tell you, even though I am going to personally take this as it's happening, I want you, if you're really excited about this and you don't think that you're going to be able to control yourself and your anger if this isn't right, just to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Even if NateTheHate has been totally right about pretty much everything, I just want you to remember he is still a leaker, and eventually leakers fall off. They just do. Something happens where Nintendo gives them bad information, or they get caught, or they decide to stop for whatever reason. It's like these things, they just very rarely work out forever. Like you never become a leaker and just stay a leaker forever. So at some point he will get something wrong, and at some point it will be over. But for now, I think it is a very, very good indication for this game's existence that he is saying it is real. So Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was so popular, it deserved every single bit of hype that it got, especially for the latter 85% of the game. The first 15% of the game is horrendous, and I know how many people despise the game and stopped playing it from that first 15%. The people who pushed through realized that it was one of the best games ever made. I don't think I've ever played a game that has made me as emotional or deeply connected to the characters as Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did. So why this game, right? Like, why this game at all? Well, first, Stealth talked about how it was the most popular Monolith Soft game to this date, and that is still true. Like, after Xenoblade 2, there was Definitive Edition for the first game, and then there was Xenoblade 3, and then Xenoblade X got a new release, and then Xenoblade X got a Switch 2 edition. None of those have even come close to the 2.7 million that Xenoblade 2 has sold. Yes, it had to do with the platform that it launched on, that people were just excited, willing to go and buy, but what we're seeing now with the Switch 2 is that that doesn't necessarily always equate to sales. Xenoblade is a relatively niche series, it just is. There are so many people in the gaming sphere that know what it is and have heard all of us JRPG fans screaming from the rooftops to go play it, but a lot of people, especially in 2017, didn't even know what the series was. So I have honestly used that excuse as to why it sold so well is because, well, people were interested, it was coming back, it was hyped, it looked good, but also I think it just decided to be one of those big games for the Switch. It was December, it was that holiday season, and people wanted Breath of the Wild, they wanted Mario Odyssey, and after that, they were like, let me take a shot on a JRPG. Let me go on here and do that. But I don't think we can say that anymore, because the Switch 2 has proven that just because it's within the first year of a console's lifespan, that doesn't mean your game is going to sell inherently better. Mario Tennis Fever couldn't crack 1 million. Metroid Prime 4 couldn't crack 1 million. We have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. The developers from Koei Tecmo said it cracked 1 million, but then Nintendo did not put it on their forecast or on their financial reports either time, and it's been 2 quarters since that release. Sure, there are some different circumstances from then to now, like it's so much more expensive to buy anything. Games are $70. Those were all $70 games, but I still just think that if we were to look at it in a vacuum, it doesn't make sense to say that anymore. So what it does mean is that for whatever reason, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 specifically resonated with people in a way that no other Xenoblade game has been able to do since. Maybe it has to do with the nature of the game, it has to do with some of the character designs. I really hope that's not the case, because that just makes me feel a little bit gross, but I really hope that people were able to see the game for what it was. Now we're going to have a much better chance of people seeing it for what it is, because this game needs the makeover more than any other. I talked about this in depth in my video earlier this year, but Xenoblade 2, its tutorials were terrible. It did not explain to you the mechanics of the game properly at all. Hardly anyone could understand without looking up YouTube guides on how to properly defeat enemies, how to do everything well. But man, once you did click with that gameplay, it clicked so hard. This game is so good and satisfying to play, on top of an amazing story that takes you so long to complete, but even though it takes that long, you're on the edge of your seat for pretty much the entirety of it. This game needs a definitive edition because of that. It needs a definitive edition because it is easily the ugliest looking game in the series. Somehow the Wii game I think looks better than this one. Like, this one has some great cutscenes, it has a good art direction, but some of these worlds, man, you can see how it was just running on the Switch and it was chugging and it was having a really hard time doing anything. Like, if you really look at some of these screenshots, it is just blurry as heck. It does not look good, especially in handheld mode. It has had so many problems that could genuinely benefit and genuinely transform the experience into a new game if it used the power of the Switch 2 perfect. So now that we've talked about that, the Switch 2 edition would probably be most likely. I could see that happening because they did it for X, and it's probably much more of a lower cost for them to be able to do it. So I would be more than happy with the Xenoblade 2 update. So that's it. I'll get off my high horse here. I'll get off my soapbox. I am so excited for Xenoblade 2. If this comes true, I will scream my head off. But now I want to talk a little bit more about what it means for the future of Nintendo. What does this mean for this year? Nate got so many leaks correct that he is pretty much at a 98% hit rate. I believe everything this man says. So if that is true, what else is coming this year? Well, we know that the biggest game that he said was coming is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time getting a remake. This could genuinely be a video all on its own, and maybe I'll end up doing something similar to that a little bit later down the line, but I think Ocarina of Time remake has the chance to be one of the biggest games of the year and to make so many people really happy. But at the same time, I think it has a really good chance of making so many people genuinely upset, genuinely angry at Nintendo, more than we've seen in a while. Ocarina of Time is somehow a game I've still never played. So for me, this is going to be a very interesting experience. One way or another, I think people are going to be happy or upset. I think if you look at Star Fox, that is a good example of what this game could end up being. Star Fox seems to be much more of a faithful remake, something where it's like, we're going back to the roots of 64, and we're gonna say, this is what the game is, but just in modern standards. It's gonna add a little bit more content, fill in a little bit more of those gaps, give us some more cutscenes and fill out everything there. But I think that Ocarina of Time could have the same impact, negatively and positively, because Star Fox, that initial reaction, so many people were very upset at the designs, didn't like how it looked, and just thought that the rest of the game looked great, but the designs were a problem. That could be very much the case with Ocarina of Time. They decided to go much more of a cartoony, cel-shaded design. I could really see people being like, that's not what the original game should have been, that's not what it is, that's not great, it should have been more realistic, it should have been more gritty. And if they go gritty and realistic, some people are going to say it should have been more cartoony. So I think even from a design standpoint, people are going to be upset. From a gameplay standpoint, boy, I think I've seen a lot of rumors and a lot of people talking about the Breath of the Wild-ification of this game, the potential for them to decide to make this an open world experience. That, I think, would be a disaster. I think personally I might enjoy it, and because I've not played Ocarina of Time, I'm not sure I would be upset at hardly anything. I think I would only be excited at the potential game, but I think that if they were to do something like that, it would just be a total nightmare for the community, because at that point it's not a remake, it's a reimagining, and there are so many different definitions of what a remake is. But so many people would tell you, if it's not a faithful one-to-one remake where it's just making the graphics better, it's not a remake, it's a different game. But as we know, remakes often end up being the butt of so many jokes and conversations to a really toxic extent. So with Zelda, I'm just going to stand back and say I hope they don't do the Breath of the Wild occasion of it. I hope that they just decide to say, you know what, we're going to do Ocarina of Time, but what we would have done if we had today's hardware then. Hopefully that doesn't lead to grotesque new designs in which people hate it. Hopefully that doesn't mean that the gameplay changes for the worse. I just hope that that means that everyone can be happy and that it is going to be really fun. But one thing I've heard that I really want to talk about is that people are saying that this isn't enough for the holiday game, that there should be more, that of course Zelda's going to get an anniversary game and they're going to have to give us another holiday game. That would be really cool, but I honestly think that Ocarina of Time is the perfect game for the holiday. I really don't think that we need anything more than that. That's huge. Yes, we technically got that 3D port to the 3DS where Ocarina of Time 3D came out, and I know that looked better and that was kind of what that remake was. So some people are saying like, oh, they already did it once, why would they do it again? Because it's a Switch 2, because this is the most powerful console they've ever had by far, and this remake would look so much better than it would on the 3DS. But I don't really think that argument makes any sense either, to say that, oh, they did it like 15 years ago on the 3DS, so why would they do it again now? Because it's different, because it's new. The Zelda team especially has made such intentional efforts to make sure that you can play all of the older games in new ways. In this era of modern gaming, they want you to be able to play those games as many ways as you can. Of all the franchises, we've gotten so many HD re-releases and remakes in a way that we've not seen in any other. So I really do appreciate the Zelda team for that, and I hope that nobody is upset at anything that they reveal from this unless it changes everything from the core, in which case I can understand being upset. So then he said for the summer that Star Fox was coming. He was right. In June we're getting Star Fox. He said that there would be Splatoon Raiders also in the summer. He was right. That was revealed for July. He said the same thing about Rhythm Heaven Groove. That's also coming in July. So then August. We don't know about August, but I think Fire Emblem will probably fill that spot, if not September, somewhere around those 2 months. I would bet almost anything that game will come out within those 2 months. So then he said that there was also a potential for a Switch sports game. He pretty much said that there was going to be one for the summer as well. I think that there is a good chance that it could be a Switch 2 edition of Switch Sports. That game sold really, really well. I don't know why people don't talk about it, but it sold over 10 million copies. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they were to do it a Switch 2 edition of that, because pretty much every single game in the top 10 best-selling Switch lists has gotten a update for the Switch 2 graphically. Animal Crossing got it, Mario Odyssey got a free update that increased the graphics, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom got a Switch 2 edition, Scarlet and Violet both got enhanced upgraded graphics. Same thing for Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So many of those games got updates, and I think that if you were to look at it, 10 million plus is pretty much going to be the candidates for Switch 2 edition. So here we are. I think it could be possible. I also think it's very possible that they just decided, let's do a new one from the ground up with Mii's this time, because Tomodachi Life is coming out and they're bringing Mii's back. I really hope if they do that, it's something more like a Switch 2 Sports Resort, something where it's a lot more games than they gave us in the first one, because they launched the game with like 4 and then gave us basketball and tennis and then gave us like basketball and golf after it was way too late. I was playing that game so much when it came out, and then I totally fell off before they even gave us a chance to play those new games. So yeah, I liked a lot that they did with the Switch Sports game, but I hope that they do something new. If it is a Switch 2 edition, I would be very, very upset, unless that they gave us a bunch of new sports. I think otherwise it would be fine. My last talking point here that's kind of about these leaks, I want to talk about Mario and what is going on with him in 3D games. 3D Mario has been such a source of toxicity because a lot of people have hated on Landon from Nintendo Land really just being the front force of wanting 3D Mario, and all the crowd that say that if there's no 3D Mario and there's no Zelda, then the console is terrible and there's no reason to buy it. I totally disagree with that mindset. I know Landon thinks that it's okay to want that. I think that there is some nuance there to say that yes, it is okay to want that, but also at the same time, don't complain that you're not getting those games if we're getting a ton of other games. I don't necessarily think that he's doing all that much, but just the community that surrounds that talking point tends to be like, well, no Mario, no Zelda. There's nothing to play, and that's just not true. There's plenty of stuff to play that you just don't want to play. Like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book just dropped at the time of this recording, and I'm not super interested. I thought I was. I even broke down that first trailer on the channel. It looks interesting, but I just don't think I care enough to spend $60 on a 2D side-scroller. I'm not usually a huge fan of 2D games anyways, which is very much a Gen Z thing for me to say, but I understand that a lot of people make great 2D games. I love a lot of 2D games. I just personally don't tend to go out of my way to play 2D games that don't instantly appeal to me. So like, I'm not going to sit here and say there's nothing to play. I'm going back and I'm playing old games. I'm playing games that they've already given us. They have so many games coming. I'm patient. And I just wish more people were like that. But for 3D Mario, he said that it was coming in 2027. So next year, the exact year that I predicted it to come. After Donkey Kong Bonanza got revealed to be made by some of the Odyssey team, there were some people that were bracing for impact, saying there's a chance we don't get a 3D Mario for years to come. And there still is a chance of that technically, but Nate says 2027 is the year for 3D Mario, that it was technically planned for this year, but that it got pushed to next year. I love that they do that. I love that they decide internally that they're not going to just go with a given release date, but that they're going to say, no, we're going to make this the best game possible first. So for 3D Mario, I just hope it's big, it's epic, and that it is worth the wait, because Bowser's Fury was not a new experience. I'm sorry. Even though it was a new thing for us to play, it wasn't a brand new game. It just wasn't. If you have to attach it to a port of another game, if you're making a new mode based off of that game, it's just not a new one. It's not. So since 2017, it will have been 10 full years, if it comes out next year, that we will have had no 3D Mario games. The topic has been done to death, so I'm not going to sit here and talk about it super long unless I decide to make another video, but for now, in this video, I'm just gonna focus on, I think that's good. I think that's fine. 3D Mario next year is great. That will be the huge system seller for the console up to this point. I think right now, if you were to ask most of the public, Pokopia would probably be the highest Switch 2 system seller that we have thus far. Mario Kart World would probably be second, and then Bonanza third. So it's really nice that we have the option to get that bundle from June to September before they raise the price. I really do appreciate that on Nintendo's part. Basically apologizing to us, saying, hey, here, just take it before we have to raise the price. We're so sorry. Get a free game with it while you can. So for 3D Mario, I just hope it's great. I have no expectations for it whatsoever. I hope it's another sandbox style game. I hope it's not necessarily a big open world. If it is, I'm open to the idea, but I just think that more linear platforming is the direction for Mario. Galaxy 2, I think, is the best Mario game of all time, but if you had to ask me, I think 3D World is probably my favorite, and Odyssey is obviously the most popular. So those three games, I always go back and forth between saying, like, man, I love all of them equally, but I just think if you were to ask me, 3D World is probably my favorite. So if we were to get much more of a linear structure, I wouldn't be mad. I think the sandbox style is also phenomenal. Open world is just such a new concept for Mario. Like Bowser's Fury gave us a little bit of that, but I just don't think it would be a very wise decision for them to do that with Mario. I could be wrong. We'll see. Depends on what the game looks like, I guess. But as far as 2026 goes, there is a chance that in a potential June Direct, which Jeff Grubb said that he was going to pretty much say that there was going to be one, and there's a potential that we see it. I hope that they show it to us by the end of the year. If it's going to come out like late next year, there's a potential that it has a full year if they show us maybe in February, but I think it shouldn't be shown in June, maybe. I don't know. I'm going back and forth on this. I think June would be a fine time for them to show it to us. But if you think about Odyssey, like they showed it to us in January for the first time, like that was the first ever trailer we got of that game, if you don't count the Switch reveal. Then you have in June the big blowout trailer, and then a big direct in September, and then it released in October. So they didn't even give us a full year for it. And I don't know, I kind of like that. I like not having to wait like a year and a half like I do with 3D Zelda games in between every single release and announcement. It can be fun, it's great for content. I would not argue with them showing it to us in June, and then we get a bunch of content on it until next fall. But at the same time, I think that they should probably wait a little bit. One way or another, I don't care. If they show it to us, I'm happy. If they don't, I'm happy because I'm sure it's coming anyway. But that's what 2026 looks like so far. That's not every single game. I'm sure Nintendo has more tricks up their sleeve. But if you look at it, it's kind of filling out the calendar already. We have through June, July, August, September, could be Fire Emblem, probably Switch 2 Sports in there somewhere. Then you're going to get some other games coming out. Ocarina of Time remake, perhaps some other Zelda's anniversary celebration game. And then, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles frickin' 2. I'm so excited. This is looking like it's going to be a great year, but I just really hope that they give us a direct for it. I just need a June direct. It's been so long. So that's 2026. That's the state of leaks. That's kind of my opinion on what's going on with all these different games. There's a whole other topic I could talk about leaks in general. Haven't gone too far, but that's a topic for another day. For now, make sure you like today's video if you did enjoy. Subscribe and click the notification bell. Also consider joining my membership program to help support the channel financially and get some cool perks for yourself. If you want to see my video on Xenoblade Chronicles 2 from earlier in the year, click on the left side of your screen and click on the right side of your screen to see my Tales Untold series going through Breath of the Wild and looking through all of the memories. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I'll see you all in the next video.